Dimitri Tsitsikas, my friend, how are you?
I'm great. I'm
I
great. I
know.
wake up in the morning, I take a deep breath, thank the Lord, and go, we've got another day. How good's this?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good way to
Yeah,
start, isn't it? My favorite time of
100%.
day, I was going to say, my favorite time of day is early morning because that's the time the day is filled with possibility. Like, what could happen from here? Like anything. I love it. First, early morning.
The greatest ideas come to me in the morning.
Right. Nice.
After some breathing, walking, it just
Yep.
the juices are flowing, and
Yep.
I can see the possibilities. I can see all the angles, and
Yep.
it's amazing how once you get bogged down in the day
Mm.
with the noise,
Yep.
yeah, it becomes challenging.
Yeah. For those absolute heathens, and I think maybe like two people in Australia who don't know you, um, you have been in sort of in tech sales, enterprise, and sort of small level sales for a number of years now. 17 years with MessageMedia, from conception through to exit. Pretty sizable exit a number of years ago, and obviously that's where we know each other. We've interviewed people together. We've sat in interview rooms together. So the fact that you're on this call with me is something of a miracle. But tell me, what's it like working for the same company for 17 years?
Um, Challenging,
Okay.
challenging because you'll go through peaks and troughs, and the business never stayed stagnant, which is
Mm.
exciting too. But you're going to have to prepare yourself for the ups and the lows, yeah, the ups and downs. So,
Yep.
but if you look at it in retrospect, it was the journey that is the most important thing. When I reflect back on
Hmm.
the whole journey, it was that middle bit of scrapping and trying to
Mm.
take
Mm.
things and move it and live to the dream that you have to create a technology company that's not going to be a great success in Australia, but a great
Mm.
success globally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was called gregarious by somebody on on the advisory board when I first joined. Actually, through the interview process, he said to the co-founder Grant, "Yeah, he's great, but he's very gregarious, and it comes from a place of belief. If you believe in
Mm.
something, if you believe in a product and a solution that is going to drive actual measurable outcomes, and you
Yeah.
believe in the people that are driving it, and those around you on that journey, the sky's the limit." That's how I
Yeah.
saw it when I
Yeah.
joined the business, even before I
The
joined the
reason I
business, I
laughed
could
then
see it.
is the reason I laughed is because I thought you said gregarious because you're Greek and you're gregarious. I thought you said
That
I'm
too,
gregarious, but you are
that
gregarious.
too,
I love.
that too.
For those that don't know or maybe haven't heard of Message Media, um, an SMS marketing business, an SMS marketing platform, an SMS communication platform. I remember when I first started working with the business, thinking this is we're going to this new age of technology and everything's it's about the cloud and it's this and it's that. And SMS back then felt almost old fashioned, but it's really interesting, isn't it? It's one of those technologies that it just stands the test of time. And I think it probably took a couple of months after me joining for me to realize that it's so ubiquitous and we're so used to and we're comfortable with SMS as a communication method that why would it die? Like all the other platforms, the Slacks, the emails, like email won't go away, Slack won't go away, but all these other things keep coming up, but SMS stays ubiquitous.
You can't just get it. You can't delete it off your phone, right?
Mm.
It's embedded within the actual mobile itself and operating system. It's interesting. Many moons ago, I sat in a boardroom with a VC out of the US, and he discussing the business. And as we just started to scale, we're making
Yeah.
some waves in the market, and a question was asked, like, "What's the risk?" Because SMS seems to be
Yep.
like a dying technology,
Mm.
and there was something that just resonated with me at the time. The co-founder said that the risk to the business is one, over the top messaging, think WhatsApp,
Mhm.
etc.
Yep.
Or and two, the competitors, the speed to market with which you
Mm.
can launch a business like this.
Mm.
We're just very lucky we got in early. We're one of the first, second or first in the market at the time, but we scaled quickly, and it was on the back end of hard work, but people.
mm,
People were key
mm.
to everything, which I'm sure we'll unpack through
Yeah,
this discussion.
yeah, yeah. Rewind back to those early days for us of Message Media when you joined. How many people were there? What was it like?
I think there was 10 of us at the time, and actually I remember even walking in, and there was two guys, sale guys, kicking the footy around in the office. There was two rooms, and I went, "What am I? Where am I going? What am I doing here?" I went home and said, "I don't know if I want to join this business, but there's something about this technology that is resonating with me, and two, um, just the values and principles of the founder or co-founder resonated with me. The passion and
Mm,
drive
mm,
to
mm,
succeed and win,
mm,
and it's infectious, right? If you work around people that are driven, it just
mm.
it's almost like it just sweeps you up,
Yeah.
and I love that. I love that, just that energy, that drive,
Mm,
and
mm,
if everyone's on
mm,
the same page, I think anything can be accomplished.
mm, mm.
Anything can be
I think it was a
accomplished. I
bit of.
truly believe it.
I was just going to say, I think it was a sort of a bit of an internal sort of legend when I joined that Grant Rule, co-founder, sort of bankrolled the business to start with off the back of credit card debt because he believed in it so much, which you just wouldn't hear of today, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's again, they're just examples. When you
Mm,
look at that as somebody who joins a startup, for me anyway, it resonates because we've all had our challenges growing up.
mm,
Nothing has ever come easy
yeah,
growing up, and so I understand that. And even when I first joined, and this is, I mean, public knowledge, it was tough the first few months. It's like, yeah, we can't do this, we can't pay for this, Timmy, we can't pay for this. And it's like,
mm,
that's okay. Now,
yeah,
anybody else would probably go, what do you mean you're not paying me for this and not paying for that?
yeah,
And, the goalposts are changing.
mm, mm,
But the mentality I had was, this is my business and I'm gonna
mm,
treat this like my own business,
mm,
and
mm,
it is what it is.
yeah,
And I accepted it. And I said, yep, that's
mm,
fine. I accept it. Um, and I'm going to work within this framework. Yeah.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
hopefully along the way, if we succeed, then I'll be
yeah,
looked after. It's a very
yeah,
different mentality to what it is
mm,
today, where
mm,
I
mm,
think there's an expectation today that I've now joined, I'm working with you, and my expectation is I'm going to get this, versus me saying, hey, why don't we build something together meaningful
yeah,
and then sharing the spoils at some point if we have that
yeah,
opportunity. We want
yeah,
the now, we want that instant gratification.
mm, mm,
And I see it not just in business, across just life in general.
yeah, yeah. Do you think people leave jobs too quickly these days? Do you think there's too much choice for them? There's too many good jobs out there. If it doesn't work out, just go somewhere else.
I think so, but I think it's a cultural thing. It's a mentality
Right.
thing. It's a time. It's the era that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've come from a background where you fight it out. Like,
Mm, mm,
and I had people around me that said, "What are you doing? Like, get out of there!
mm,
Like, are you
mm,
insane?
mm,
Like, there's so many more opportunities." I mean, I'm getting it now. Even some of the clients I'm working with, people are like, move on to the next one or do something else.
yeah.
But for
Yeah.
me, I want to fix things or help others fix
Mm,
things in their environment if we can to make it
yeah.
better. No matter what it
Yeah.
is, it could be
Yeah.
business because this is what we're talking
Mm,
about. It could
mm,
be life. It could be anything. Just to lean in, and if you've got some IP and you've got the knowledge to be able to share it, and you've got the passion and drive, which is key,
mm, mm,
it's amazing what you can achieve, man.
yeah.
I've seen some things over the last year and a bit, even the last 6 months, of individuals in businesses that I'm supporting, where they've come in raw, they've followed a process, they're driven, and they've grown as
Mm, mm,
individuals in their field, and that's heartening, yeah, and I love
yeah.
that. I just
Yeah.
want to see people
Yeah.
evolve and better themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this saying about recruiting. Like parts of recruiting are really boring. A lot admin heavy, like quite linear. The best parts for me were always, talking to candidates, talking to your stakeholders, and trying to move things forward. But there are some things that have to happen, and I don't know whether it's sort of the military background, but this discipline of repetition, being able to do the mundane things with discipline on time when they need to be delivered, gets you to the end goal. It's always the unglamorous work that makes the most difference. Whether it's from we're going to talk about sales, but whether it's from a lead gen, doing your own BD, picking up the phone, going and seeing that difficult customer. You know, the stuff that's unglamorous is the stuff that moves the needle the most. And I agree. I think there's a thing culturally today where everything's hacks and tricks and secrets to help you move quickly. But sometimes you just have to do the work. Sometimes you have to do a year of being someone else's sales assistant and just learn the ropes and learn through observation and osmosis, and then you get your SDR role or your whatever the role is. So, yeah, I think we're going off potentially going off topic a bit, but I
No,
think
look,
there's definitely something there.
well, because I mean, look at the line of work you're in, right? And this is really important. People talk about it, and I see a lot of posts every day online about hiring and culture. And um, I think leaders today um, have changed drastically from back, 15, 20 years ago. And I think that people today expect more. They want leaders. This is just my opinion because I've seen it where it's successful, not successful. They should be servant
Yeah,
leadership. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, somebody described me as that, and I didn't think about it. I've never
mm,
thought
mm,
about it. It's only been mentioned to me once before, and that was by Grant.
yeah,
You got to be selfless, and I think that's got to do with the upbringing too. I get that. She's just very selfless,
yeah,
self-sacrificing. If you're like that in the environment that you work in and you care about your people, they're going to care about your business. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had
And,
somebody
and
say
it,
to me, "Why don't go on?"
no, you go.
I was just going to say, I just because it's all coming to me now because there's a lot of it's been a hectic couple of months. But
Yeah,
somebody said to me recently, a founder said to me recently, "I just don't understand why this person or that person doesn't care enough." And my response was, "Do you care about them?"
yeah,
And it was just a pause. Do you
mm,
actually care about them? What
mm,
are they going through right now?
mm,
Actually, by the way, tell me a bit about them. Do you know anything about them?
yeah,
Family, kids, what's not 100% sure. I said, I
yeah,
think we should invest some time in our people,
mm,
get to know
mm,
them, what makes them tick,
yeah,
um, before passing judgment. Because everyone's got their trauma, everyone's
mm,
got their
mm,
way, but everybody has also got their talent, and that's something that I was very passionate about in those early years.
yeah,
Is hiring for the right values first and
mm,
foremost.
yeah,
And I had to keep reiterating to the team, the leaders, that um, no one is perfect.
mm,
Yeah. We're hiring for values first and foremost. Other things can be taught, but if they've got the right
mm,
mentality
mm,
and they're passionate and all the rest you can mold and shape. And everyone's got their talent to bring to the table. So don't be quick to judge. That's my
yeah,
view.
yeah. Is coachability one of those things that you look for as well? They've got to be coachable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if they're humble,
Yeah,
yeah, if they're humble and willing to
mm,
learn,
mm,
and that also applies in not just in the hiring side of things, but even on the let's call it the selling side of things.
mm, mm,
Um, I said to a BDM recently, I mean about 6 months ago, but it's kind of come back the other way now because he's seen progression and development and growth in his craft. I said to him 6 months ago, it is okay to be in a meeting and say, "Can I please ask a dumb question? Because I'm not as smart as you guys." And I've
mm,
given him examples where I've sat in meetings with some incredible, I've worked with some, and you've met many of them and worked with them, incredible executives,
mm,
especially in those scale up years, incredible, smart people, truly respect. And I used to be in awe of them. And I learned so much from them. And I
mm,
and
mm.
and it's okay. Like I said to the meeting, it's okay to say, "Look, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask a stupid question because I
Yeah,
got no idea." How are you going
yeah,
to learn otherwise?
mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
just be real, be authentic.
Mm, mm. I was having a very similar conversation with someone recently, where I'd sort of noticed a pattern over the last few weeks of you ask them question, well-intentioned question, hey, what's the status with something, and there's a certain look that comes over their face, and you immediately think you don't know, but they just start talking and it's waffle. So the conversation we had was, it's all right if you don't know, it's actually fine. So, but I think the most important thing is, just own it. Hey, look, you know what? That's a good question. Not sure. I think it's either this or it's that, but can I come back to you by the end of the day? And you just go, fine. But the minute someone thinks that you're bluffing or that you're just waffling, to try and get through the awkwardness, that they start then distrusting everything they say. So your credibility takes a hit, and that can be something really hard to come back from. So we had that sort of conversation there, and then they were saying, "Yeah, well, I just panic. I feel like I'm expected to know everything." So I'm like, "You're not expected to know. No one's expected to know everything. Like, how can we be?" Um, but when you do that, sometimes you make things that are a small thing, you make them a bigger deal than they suddenly need to be. So, just interesting how we all get guilty, I think, sometimes of putting these limits on ourselves. But when you're really comfortable with, it's fine if I don't know everything, then life just becomes so much easier. You're not trying to live up to somebody else's expectations or your own.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. We've for living in an era where we're so connected, we're also so disconnected. The amount of
Mm,
times I'm sitting businesses today and we're talking about an issue, be it internal or external for that matter, and I asked the question, have you actually picked up the phone and spoken to this individual?
mm,
No. Have you communicated? Oh, via
mm.
email and text.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, please. And then I give them examples of, back in our era, I remember, and I use this story all the time. People hear it, they go, here we go, he's going to tell us about his US story again. I was in the
I hope so.
US. I was in the US and I saw an email. I was CC'd on an email from a large client, and it was going back and forth between our support desk and the client.
Yep.
And I thought, surely somebody's going to pick up the phone and call the customer because I could see what the customer was asking, but the
Mm,
person in support couldn't dissect it. And it
mm,
would have been easy just to pick up the phone and call. And then
mm.
24 hours had gone. I'd obviously gone to bed in the US, woke up in the morning and noticed that we were still on the chat on email. And the customer was getting frustrated by the language. That night, I picked up the phone and called headquarters, and I said,
Yeah,
"Can you please pick up the effing phone and
yeah,
call the customer,
yeah,
please?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
do you want me to call them?" Which I
yeah,
did anyway, by the way. I called the
yeah.
customer because we've got a good relationship. I said, "Hey, I've seen the email back and forth." He goes, "Where are you?" I go, "I'm in the US." He goes, "I thought so. What are you calling me for?" I said, "Well, I saw the back and forth and I was feeling anxious for you." And he's like, "Buddy," he goes, "Mate, just do your thing and don't worry about us. We'll sort it out." I said, "No, it's not good enough. Like, it is not good enough."
Mm,
And people, you've got to set the expectation. And we
mm,
have that.
mm.
And I love that about Grant. He was just all ferocious about customer support and making
Yeah.
sure that the customer's being looked after. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
And asking the question, have we let you
Yeah,
down? What can
yeah,
we do
yeah.
better?
I think it's such the whole support and customer success, whatever we want to call it, is such an underestimated part of tech businesses, any business. We go to all this effort for sales and the chase and contracts, and we give this and we take that, and we go through this sales cycle. We go to all this effort, and then if we're not careful, we just make ourselves look like complete Charlies once the customer's onboarded, when they have some simple questions. So yeah, I think it's really underrated, the importance of it. Um, Take us back to early days of Message Media again from a sales perspective. You're going out. Like, how are you defining like an ICP? Did you have an ICP?
So
We
it was it was a unique business for me. It was all new in that um, sales for MM in the beginning was just all online leads. Google,
right?
lead comes
Yep.
in, two guys on the
Yep.
call. And it was, if you speak to, there's actually still one more person at the old business that's still there working in the same area that he did when he first joined. It was like shooting fish in a barrel in those
Mm,
years, early
mm,
years.
mm.
It's like, hey, yep, I'm company X and we need messaging. Yeah, great. What's your credit card details? Boom, in, off you go. That's how
Yeah.
easy it was back in those days. When I joined the business, it was actually to build a business within the business. So it was to
Right.
build out an interactive business where we were running consumer promotions, trade promotions for and on behalf
Yep.
of brands through agencies. So I quickly realized that the business model for the interactive side wouldn't cut it. You'd have to build a partner network within that department where, you bring on an agency and then you've got
Hmm.
partnerships within the agency and then everyone within the
Yep.
agency is bringing you work because that's kind of the background I've come from, and
Mm.
it made sense. And only then did we start to scale in that business unit. And you're probably going to ask me, well, how the hell did I end up working in messaging out, away from interactive? It was really interesting because I used to hear, because it was such a small team, I'd hear the sales calls every day, and like I said, it was like, hey, yep, we need SMS. Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And off you go. And it was just constant. It was the same. It was so repetitive. And then at
mm,
one
mm,
stage, I stopped my phone calls and I'd ask the guys, hey, what is the company going to use the service for? What do you mean? Like, what are they actually using for? What problem are
yeah,
they trying to solve?
yeah.
Oh, they just
What's the
want to
business?
send it out for X. In some instances, they know they want to send it out for appointment reminders. Okay, but why? Like, like it's going to cost them money. Well, like, how bad's the problem? I don't know.
Mm,
Well, they want to use it. It must be bad. Yeah, but how bad is it? Like, what's it
mm,
actually costing them? Is it time, money? How much money? What does that look
mm,
like?
mm,
And then post constantly nagging those guys, it's like, well, they want to use our product, but what does their environment look like? What does their technology stack look? Oh, mate, Dimmy,
mm,
you're asking too many questions now, mate. That's not our job to ask all those questions. So I was curious. I went, well, I want to know how these businesses run their businesses from a tech
mm,
stack.
mm,
Um, and when I'd asked that question, kind of at a senior level, everyone's like, Dimmy, why do you care? Like, why is it so important to you? I'm like, well, it is important because I believe the future is going to be very different to what it is today. I believe in the future there are going to be business applications that are going to push out notifications, be it
mm,
CRM, MarTech,
mm.
practice management software, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we disagree. We think our product's going to do everything. And from I never came from that world where we think we're
mm,
going to solve every single problem. Life doesn't work
yeah,
that way.
mm,
And so then that's when kind of my journey started to evolve to the business messaging side of message media, and that was probably
yeah,
circa 2009,
mm, mm,
2010, and then it was game on,
yeah, yeah.
game
Because I
on.
think seem to remember early days when I joined, we probably got to the maybe the tail end of a period where there's quite a big Google ad spend driving traffic to the site. People would request a demo. Someone in inside sales would run the demo, close the customer, onboard them, and that was obviously driving a lot of traffic. But I think the sort of role you're describing, you'd been up and running in that for quite a while, for a number of years by then, and so you were really sort of starting to get that sort of more transactional type customer, but then these larger scale, so almost solution selling type clients are coming on board.
Yeah, and a lot of it was driven through the partner network that we forged and wanted to build
Mm,
out because, and again, and it goes back to that point about in an environment of trust, when a founder
mm,
trusts you,
yeah.
and you're backed by the advisory board, and you're given the keys. I call it the keys to the kingdom. Um, it gives you confidence, and they've
Mm,
got belief in where you're wanting to take this. And
mm,
that's why I
mm,
keep telling people now. I was very, very blessed to have a founder and an advisory board that backed me to go and build out what I wanted to build out. Because my view on, especially in the enterprise clients, you couldn't do it alone. You'd had to
I
partners
think
in the right sectors and verticals to be able to bring you to the table to have a meaningful discussion to try solve problems at that level. Yeah, the internet works better in Africa. I was just saying that I was very blessed to be trusted to be able to build out the vision that I had, and that was
mm,
you cannot scale the business doing what you're doing, the status quo. You can't
yeah.
just keep pouring money into Google, right?
Mm, mm,
And a lot of it. So I'm going to replicate what we've done in my previous life and build out a network of partners
mm,
where we can add value to whatever they're doing, be it in their product set or across their clients they're working with, and add value through that network. And once you prove yourself and it's reciprocal in nature, you build trust. And once you build trust, it's game on.
yeah. Yeah. You mentioned trust a couple of times. How do you build that trust?
Authenticity and not thinking about the outcome for me.
Right.
Everything's got to be reciprocal. And if I see relationship breakdown, just in
Hmm.
general,
Yeah.
um, beating, whatever it may be, it's because we don't put the we in a relationship. We put the I and the you. And
Hmm.
once you put the I and the you in the relationship, things can go pear shaped. But
Mm,
if
mm,
we implant within our hearts the we in what we're trying to achieve together, everything's possible. And we don't
mm,
have, yeah, we don't have
yeah.
distractions. I always say the
Yeah.
mobile phone because it's a big problem in today's society.
Yeah.
Even though we're constantly on them and we need them, etc., for what we do, they're also a distraction. So yeah, so it's critically important. And it goes back to that point about selflessness. Sometimes people will say, Dimmy, and I got it a lot back in those days. Dimmy, why are you wasting your time on that? Dimmy, why are you wasting your time on that? Why are you helping that person out? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like, because the person needs help, I'm helping him out. And I think about one
Mm.
particular opportunity, it comes to mind because we're still great mates. But there was a client of mine who's a friend that I hold dearly to my heart. He he wasn't ready to move to us technically. Now, could have I forced it? Probably, but the business kept saying, "Well, when are you going to sign him up? When are you going to sign him up?" And I'm like, "When he's ready."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but surely you can do X, Y, and Z and make it happen. Yeah, I probably could, but that's unnatural. My view is that that person should make system changes. That was my advice. You need to make system changes to make your business more solid and give you the opportunity to scale your business.
Mm.
And then when you do that, and technically you have the ability, then you and I should have a chat about.
Yeah.
So we were friends for 4 years, catching up regularly, never talking about connecting with us and doing business.
Mm.
What about
Mm.
his business and shedding light
Mm.
on how he can be successful? And then you build trust. And then when the time came for him to work with us, he called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we're ready to go. The API is ready. Can you give us an account?" I said, "Mate, we haven't even spoken about commercials." He's like, "Oh, yeah, if you can give me these commercials, just send me the contract, we'll sign it up." And the thing, I didn't get a pat on the back, by the way, internally. Oh, 4 years later, about time. But you could see it
Always
happening.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But for me, yes, it was 4 years, but I got a friend for life. A
Yeah.
friend for life. Yeah. And I didn't want to go into how close we are now, but it's that's what's more important to me more than
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I said this to my co-founder. There's a lot of things that have been passed on to me by my father throughout my early years. One of those was um, when we pass from this life, yeah, we're not taking it with us. We've come naked into this world and we're going to leave naked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Why do you do what you do?" Well, one, because I've got a family, kids, and all the rest of it. But two, we've got to make an effort to make things better, and not just for
Mm.
us, for others around us.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if we take a selfish attitude on everything we do in life, the world, if you think it's bad now, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a bad philosophy, is it?
I better rein it in because I'm going to get too philosophical, and this is going to go the other way.
That's all right. I'll help you there. In 17 years, you'd have seen quite a few people sort of join the business and leave, and I'm sort of thinking from a sales perspective. When you sort of reflect on perhaps some of the people that didn't work out, were there any common themes?
Yes. The ones that didn't work out were those that didn't want to put in the miles. They
Right.
they wanted the easy route
Hmm.
to sale, easy route. And when you take the easy route, a couple of things happen. The first thing is that you it affects relationships internally in the business because it's
Right.
about me and it's about what
Mm.
I can get out of this
Yeah.
tenure here in this business.
Mm.
And the other thing that happens is that you're not thinking about the customer.
Mm.
Yeah. You're thinking about how am I going to make more money? How am I going to make more commission? Should I
Mm.
overcharge for this? Should I add this? Should I do? How do I win? It's all about
Mm.
me
Mm. Mm. Mm.
versus those that their number one priority is keeping the customer happy and giving them something that is going to drive value and they're going to acknowledge that they're driven value.
Mm.
And they're going to see you more than just a vendor.
Yeah.
Like, and if,
Mm.
and those that haven't gone in with that mindset haven't been successful.
Yeah.
And there's been
I think
instances
peop-
where you've got to call it out.
I think people underestimate the smell of commission breath. Now you can smell commission breath a mile away,
Yeah.
can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can.
Mm. And so is it, when you reflect on that further, do you think that was tying into what you were describing earlier, like this lack of values alignment, like we rushed this hire, or we didn't really dig deep enough, or we needed to get bum on a seat because so and so was leaving, and we needed to keep that sales engine going. We need to own that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's and that's the thing. I've got to hand it to Grant. I mean, you've known him. We've called it out. Like we've made wrong hires, and
Yeah.
there's been instances where we've had big verbal disagreements,
Mm, mm,
um, and it's like this is not going to work. It will not
mm,
work,
mm,
and these are the
mm.
reasons why. It's like, no, they've come highly recommended. They're this, they're that, and all the rest of it. I said, yeah, but I've had a cup of coffee with this person, and it's all the talk. It's not.
Yeah.
They don't have deep rooted values
Mm, mm.
in caring about
Yeah.
everyone but themselves.
Mm, mm.
And
Yeah.
I think if people had that mindset where if I just want to help this person, it
Mm.
comes around the other way. And
Yeah.
some of the guys and girls that I'm working with at the moment across various businesses, they've the first couple of weeks they kind of go, here we go, who's this guy? What's he telling us? But then now they're coming to me 6 months later going, oh my Lord, you won't believe what happened in this meeting. Oh, won't believe what happened. And then I've got this opportunity, and then he's just opened up the door for here and he's doing this. I'm kind of understanding everything you were telling me 6 months ago. It's
Yeah.
coming to me now. It's just so visible. And I'm like, I get really
Yeah.
excited. I'm like, that's fantastic.
Mm. I think that's there's a pivotal moment there as a leader. I think when you move from the dialogue being, if you do this, then that happens, to when you do this, watch what happens, and people have their own moment where they go, oh, now I get it. On that note, then, how's your leadership? How did your leadership style, ethos, whatever you want to call it, change over the years?
I had to get more firmer as a leader.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little bit grey in the early years. I was a little bit grey, and I mean, I kept being told, you just got to. Can I use the word? You got to grow some. I hear you.
Yep. Knackers.
Yeah, you got to grow some. Because I didn't want to hurt people's feelings.
Yep.
So because I'm a feelings kind of guy,
No.
so I had to change my style um, to try and get to the outcome we want to get to,
Yep.
but ensure that I'm using the right style, the right wording to ensure that I've got to do the right thing by this person and the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a two-pronged, because again, I've got to care about the individual too, irrespective
Yeah.
if they're not working out or they're not
Yeah.
the right fit or whatever.
Yeah.
I worked with
Yeah.
a guy who was actually one of the board members, family members, and an incredibly smart individual. Love the guy. And it came to a point where I said, mate, it's not going to work out here.
Mm.
Not that I don't want to work with you because I think you're awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just that you're clashing with major shareholder, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to find a fit to work together. And I just don't see it happening. I just don't,
Mm.
strong individuals and
Mm.
constantly doing this.
Mm.
So my recommendation was, as much as it kills me, I'm telling you, you need to resign and leave. Like you
Mm.
have to make the leap. And I think you're going to own your own business. And I think you're going to be successful if you've got the right
Yeah.
people around you. And he has done that.
Nice.
Has done that. And that makes me really happy
Mm. Mm.
when you
Mm.
see people just make that leap and evolve. And I've done it a
Yeah.
few times with a lot of individuals throughout my journey where, as much as it killed me, it wasn't the right fit. And they've
Yeah.
gone on to successful careers, right?
Mm. Mm. And I think that kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier. Like in the same way that it's okay to not know something, it's also okay to be wrong. It's all right for this to not work out.
Yeah.
I think as the hirers, if you're repeatedly making the same mistakes, then that's not okay to be wrong. Like there's something fundamentally you need to change there in the way that you're qualifying, the way you're describing your values, the way that you're looking for the signal, the way that you're ruthless about who you do and don't let into the business.
Yep.
But it's okay to be wrong about things. And again, I think there's this thing that we have in society now where you have to be right all the time, and you have to have all the answers, which is, again, maybe it's an age thing, but as you get older, you realize it's just ridiculous.
Correct.
How have you seen the expectations of people coming into the business over the years change, in terms of, and I guess specifically MessageMedia when you joined, super early stage, got some success, got some traction. Um, Salespeople that you hired into your team early probably didn't have too many expectations because there wasn't probably a huge amount of customers, probably not a huge amount of formal process. But then as you
Yep.
get bigger and you bring in people more in AE type roles, the expectation probably changes. How did that sort of evolve over time?
I think that uh, in the early years, you've got to make things happen yourself, right?
Mm, mm,
You don't have a marketing budget to spend on case
yeah.
studies and special brochures and all the rest of it. So, for years on end, I didn't have that support personally.
Mm, mm,
And new people that we hired along the way, be it account managers or BDs, they're like, well, we want this and we want that and we want this marketing spend on this, and this.
mm,
Why? Because we need it. It helps us sell better.
mm,
My view was very different, and it still is today, in
mm,
that if you're coming into a business and you want to know what it is that your product does and what outcomes it's driving, my recommendation is take the time out to go actually speak to existing customers. Yeah.
mm, yeah.
Speak to another, piggyback off another account manager, go out and meet a customer and ask the dumb questions. Hey, you've
Mm,
been
mm,
using this product. Why? Why did you
mm,
ring up, or why did you decide to spend X amount of dollars every month? Oh, because we wanted to remind people that they've got an appointment. Okay, but what was going on before you initiated
mm,
this
mm,
service?
mm,
Well, people were forgetting. How many people were forgetting? Oh, at least two people didn't a day wouldn't show up to an appointment. How much does it cost? How much is a missed appointment costing your business? Oh, about $150 to $350 a missed appointment. Wow. Okay, and that's 2 days. So two appointments every day or thereabouts, and you just times it by X, and
yeah.
then you go, well, hang on a moment. Then the cost of the service is really negligible. I could charge you, for argument's sake, instead of 12 cents a text, I could charge you $3, $5 for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, and we'd still be happy. And I used that
Mm,
line once
mm,
with a CEO of a specific client here in Melbourne. Uh, he said, "Mate, we're just loving this. We're loving the outcomes we're driving." I'm like, "That's
mm,
great."
mm,
And when we broke it down, what it looked like, he said, "Mate, you could charge me $1 per text and
yeah.
I'd still pay because we're
Mm,
driving great
mm,
outcomes." So there was an expectation, there's an expectation over the years as we evolved and grew, that as we grew, as we became bigger, we had more money in the bank,
yeah.
more resources, we wanted more,
Mm,
you know. And then years later, you're looking around the team and you've got 20 marketers in there and
yeah.
you're asking yourself the question, with all respect, am I driving the same outcomes having
Mm,
20 people versus one? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, as well, going back to that use case. And I think I remember having an early conversation with you about customers with that use case. When the conversation changes in a sales context, when the conversation changes from appointment reminders to revenue protection, suddenly you're having a different conversation, and prospects go, "What do you mean revenue protection?" And you tell the case story, and they go, "That's what we're experiencing." Suddenly, your ability to sell but solve a real problem for them,
Yeah.
particularly in an SME market where you're an SME, and every the first 10 appointments of the month pay all the bills, and anything after that is profit, is you making money as a founder. If you can protect that
Correct.
revenue for them, they're making their business is making money. That's good for everybody.
Correct. And you want to know also where this business is going, where that customer is going, where they want to be.
Mm,
And the same
mm,
thing
mm,
applies with partners. Yeah.
yeah.
Where do they want to be? Where do they see themselves? How's this
Mm,
going to be a fit if we're not aligned, right?
mm, 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 yeah. What's a belief about hiring or about teams that you've had to change your mind on over the years? Something you thought was true, and then as you've gone on this journey, you go, actually, it wasn't ever that. It was this.
I if I look at what's transpired in the last 18 months,
Okay.
because they're not my businesses, yeah,
Yep.
I'm working for other founders. Um, I'm not as hard as what I was in the early years, because you're scrapping hard in the early years, right?
Mm,
Every
mm,
single dollar counts.
yeah.
So, working for, and again, it depends on the size of the business. But if you're working for a smaller business, be it startup or scale up, you've got to get scrappy. You've got to get scrappy, and you've got to put a big lens on every single hire,
Yeah.
because it's make
Yeah.
or break. And if you spend three
Mm.
months and it doesn't work out, and then you're starting all over again. Hence why you got to get the base ingredients of the individual
Mm.
right for the business.
Yeah.
If the ingredients, the base ingredients are spot on, the rest will work out.
Mm. Yeah. And I think sort of on that thread, if you don't know yourself and the ingredients that you know work, how can you go and look for it or find it in other people? This is the thing I think about being honest with yourself. Where are we at right now? What's our next milestone, particularly early stage? Like, what's the next milestone we're trying to get to? Whether that's hitting PMF or raising a Series A, whatever it is. Like unless you have PMF, you have nothing, right? So, um,
That's why I love working with founders, because they've got a different mindset, right? A very, very
yeah,
different mindset.
mm,
And I've noticed that. I had a call recently from someone, I mentioned their name, and I said, "Gee, we miss having you here." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because we're sitting in meetings and nothing's getting done." I'm like, "What
yeah,
do you mean?" They're like, like there's no one coming in and dissecting it and going, right, who's doing what, when, and
yeah,
just, directing traffic, and boom, let's go, let's make it happen.
yeah,
And I noticed that in the kind of the tail end of my journey with MM after we were acquired. I saw it creeping in after all the change in management executives and all the rest of it. It creeped into the
yeah,
business. And I remember coming into a meeting and people were slacking me, going, "Oh my God, we've got so many actions out of this meeting. Thank the Lord you're back from leave." And I went, "What? What's going on? Like, why are we heading this way?"
yeah,
And I
yeah,
quickly realized that once founders in a business, the drivers, they're just passion driven
mm,
to get
mm,
things
mm,
done, are out of the business, things change.
yeah, yeah,
Things change. So
mm,
you've got to take, and this is what I tell staff members that are working for founders in smaller businesses or bigger
mm,
businesses.
mm,
Um, I don't judge a founder. Yeah, I don't judge them, because for them to get to where they got to, mate, they've done it. They've done the hard yards. Yeah, so I'm in
mm,
awe of
mm,
what they've achieved to date.
mm,
So I tell the team, don't judge the founder because of certain elements in their personality or the way they're driving the
yeah,
business.
yeah,
I mean, the mere fact that this founder is investing for me, for instance, to come in and support him and the business means
mm,
that he actually
mm,
cares. Yeah, we
yeah,
want to do things differently. Fingers crossed. So I'm not quick to judge, but having said that, though, if I'm in a business and I'm working with a founder to drive these outcomes,
mm,
and there's constant stonewalling on fundamentals when it
yeah,
comes to, we're talking about the base values,
mm,
then it's
mm,
not going to work because my
yeah,
values aren't aligned.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it, I know it sounds crazy, but it always goes back to the start. Like, get the
mm,
foundational stuff right, and then we can work. You
yeah,
don't get the foundations right, like when you're building a home or building a
mm,
school.
mm,
But if you don't get
mm,
the foundations right,
yeah,
in 10 years' time, it's gone.
yeah. I used to have questions from some of my team a while ago, asking why I'd get grumpy about things. Like something would come up we'd have an account review session. Hey, how are all our customers going? Any issues? I need to know about what's happening. How are they feeling? And little things will come up, and I'd be like, I can't believe we're having to talk about this again. Like I thought a month ago we'd all agreed on this how we were going to have this thing, and I'd get a bit grumpy about it. And then someone would say, "Look, why do you get so grumpy about these small little details?" And I'm like, because it's the small little details that matter. If we can't, like, they're the things that affect outcomes. So if we don't take care of them ourselves now proactively, if the client then has to do something about those small details a month down the track, they start questioning our professionalism, and that's not how you renew customers. So, it's that thing as founders as well. Like, no one will care about your business as much as you, um, unless you hire Dimitri, and then you find someone who does.
It's well, it's a, thank you. It because again, it doesn't matter the business. It's an emotional thing.
Mm,
I want to do what's right for the business and that
mm,
founder.
mm.
And there's going to be instances where they're not going to like what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I keep telling them it's going to come from a place of care. I had a, a very robust discussion with a founder a couple of months ago, and I told it as it is. And I said, even
Mm,
before I
mm.
started giving the feedback, I said, I'm just letting you know it's coming from a place of care. This is not having a
Yeah.
dig at individuals, and this is about what I think it would take to scale hard. and be able to achieve what we've achieved in the past. And then I started giving the feedback, and I was like, "Well," and I'm like, whoa, hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying. Let me tell you the
Yeah.
story so you can get the full context before
Mm,
you
mm,
pass judgment. And it was confronting for them.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
confronting. Now,
Mm,
whether they took it as gospel and want to run with it, that's totally up to them.
yeah.
I don't
Mm,
judge. But, you know, if it was my business,
mm,
I would be taking this advice and doing something with
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's also this thing, isn't there? Of it's probably what you're talking about is, we attack the problem, not the person. I think as soon as people think you're attacking them,
Yeah.
it just changes the dialogue totally, because it's now a confrontation between you and them, not focusing on what the actual problem is. So interesting. I'm mindful of time, but I was keen to understand a bit more about its philanthropy. What's that all about? What's happening? What are you doing?
What isn't happening? Um, so, a bit of background, and a lot of people don't know this, but one of the reasons why I stayed at Message Media in the early years was because, as I said, values were aligned between me
Mm,
and the co-founder, and um, we, as a company, donated X% every year to various charitable causes. And
yeah.
there was one year I went to Grant and I said, "Look, I really want us to, rather than doing something like we always do here in Australia, I want to support a project overseas in Sierra
Hmm.
Leone. I've got my sister's friend, Mary Adams, she's over there teaching 3 different schools. She's doing some amazing work. And in one of the suburbs in Waterloo on the outskirts of Freetown, there's a orphanage, clinic, and a primary school, and they cook the children there one hot meal a day for lunch, but they don't have a feeding hall. They don't have a hall. It's done on the back
Right.
of a shack with fire and uh, pretty prehistoric way of doing things, right? That we're not accustomed to in this beautiful country. And he said to me, "Well, what does it entail?" I said, "I want to build a feeding hall," and so we funded it. And a lot of
Nice.
people don't know this. And I'm blessed to have worked with someone like Grant who put his money where his mouth is and said, right, let's do this, let's make it happen. And we did. And even recently, when I caught up with him a couple of months ago, and I was telling him about the current project, the school, he said,
Yeah.
Timmy, what's going on? How did you get involved in that? And I told him about the school project. He couldn't remember. He said, did we do that? I said, mate, I said, people don't know that Message Media, the work we did and the money we donated and what we built over there has changed the lives of thousands of kids. I said, this is an extension of that. I
Yeah.
said, and you know, it didn't work out with Cinch after the acquisition. And I thought, you know what? After I finished up, I went, I, I made a promise that we're going to do this, and I
Hmm.
keep my promises. And everyone said to me, "You're crazy. What are you embarking on?" And so I launched its philanthropy in partnership with Hatter Australia and Paradise for Kids because I can't do everything on my own. I've
Yeah.
learnt that along the way. So I'm really the front, the fundraising vehicle, me,
Yeah.
and I've been blessed to have friends around me that have donated, etc. And we kicked it off over a year ago now, and it's in phases. So we raised enough money for the first phase, which reminds me I've got to do a post today. I've been lazy on that front. And we've done the first phase, which is we raised enough money to do the excavation work, the steel work, the retaining walls, and the concrete slab, and a couple of pillars done as of last
Hmm.
week. And now they're going into the wet season, and then we start. Hopefully, I can raise money. Money's a bit tight at the moment. Hopefully, we'll raise some money over the next 4 or 5 months to pick up after the wet season, which will be November, December, and start the second phase, which will be the walls and first level. It's going to be a big school, but it finishes off. It finishes off that kind of that school project, the overall school project. And I've just
Amazing.
had a friend of mine that's just come back. He went and visited, took videos for me, etc. I said, I said, Jane, what's the mood like in the school, the kids? And she said, Dimmy, tell your donors and everyone you speak to, you have no idea how excited these kids are that they're going to be able to fulfill their educational needs, primary school, secondary school, and off. They don't have that right now. So, your donors, your friends here in Australia, those that listen to your story, unless they come in and see what is transpiring here, they will never understand. And
Yeah.
also, she said to me, go tell all your friends that you used to work with that she said, I cooked meals together with the others in the feeding hall. The 4 weeks I was there feeding these kids, and the excitement every day. It, she was just kind of emotional on the call about it, and it gave me that energy. This is a call I had yesterday with her. It
Mm.
gave me the energy to go, you know what, Dimmy, this is not, yes, it's a big project, but just keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be able to put a link on wherever this goes out, YouTube, Spotify, whatever. And if people want to contact you or make a donation, they can go ahead and do
That'd be
that. So,
fantastic. And the thing
yeah.
people need to understand that is when you click donate on our website, it's philanthropy.org website, you go to the payment page, that takes you to easy debit, how to take all that money. So it's philanthropy doesn't touch the funds, go straight to Hadda. Hadda actually sends you a taxable invoice, a receipt, sorry, so you can
Yep.
utilize that for tax purposes coming up to June 30 now. And yeah, and then we keep everybody, those donors that have donated, we keep them abreast. Because people were saying to me, Dimmy, why do you always post things on LinkedIn? You're doing it every week. Like, why are you doing it every week for? I said, because I want people to know where their money's going. Yeah.
Yep.
Every
Yep.
single dollar, minus banking fees, every single dollar goes to that. And the way we had that accountability in the old business, yeah, scaling
Yep.
it, that
Hmm.
accountability is crucially important for success. And it's the same with this project too.
Amazing. Brilliant. Demi, again, mindful of time. Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure to see you. Thank you. As I said, I'll
Likewise.
add your details, and if people want to contact you and talk to you more, I'm sure they can.
You know, we could have spoken for another 3 hours.
No, we could have done. I'm getting a sore bum on this still, though.
I've got to get going anyway, and I'm busy.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Cheers, buddy.